How is you doing? Let's check this out and make sure we got the live stream up and running. Yeah, I hate the audio though. I hate the audio, but it is running. It is running. That's really what ultimately is important to me, is the fact that the audio is actually happening. Um, let's come back over here to, yeah, that'll work. That'll work. That's what we need. That's what we need. So good to have you along. It's been quite the morning, to be completely honest with you. I have, oddly enough, the boys in yellow and brown actually actually figured out what they could do for me. They brought me my machine about 12 hours after they said they had busted it up and broken it. Their words, not mine, not mine. Suddenly the machine is here. I'm not using it yet, which is why I still got the crappy AirPod microphones and why I sound like I'm sitting in some sort of sardine can. But we're here in Studio B, while over in Studio A, the machine is running its, I don't know what to really refer to it as. We're testing. We're testing to see if it's actually going to, like, that's something we want to go with. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Um, but I'm happy to be here with you. We've got an extremely busy day today, as frankly, Luigi's in here, and Heather's in here, and Kara's in here, and Abraham dropped by, and you're here too, which is great. I like it. Um, I am hopeful that I will have my regular setup after a long week and a half of working on this. It's a fine backup machine. It really is. It's like it only really crapped out on me once in a really critical meeting. So yeah. That said, we'll hopefully be getting back to our regularly scheduled programming tomorrow. But for right now, let's get this underway. All right. So, out of the gate right away, I want to sit here and talk to Luigi. Luigi, you're working on your portfolio, and there were a couple of questions that you had, and I'm over here looking at your Squarespace and kind of getting a sense of like how it's constructed. And you've got this side menu, and I know it's moving it from the bottom, which is kind of weird to be honest with you. Like normally you would think that this would move down from the top because you're doing the action from the top, but whatever, whatever. We'll come back to that in a second. Um, but that said, you've got this question about like how do you get to the actual images, and you've got an image right here. This this data source here. If we just come in and grab that, I'm just going to test it in a new window. There it is. Like, which kind of blows my mind that Squarespace would allow me to like just grab it and throw it wherever. Like you could literally use Squarespace for image hosting. I wouldn't advise doing that, because frankly, like that's what Amazon is for. Um, but if we come back over to your portfolio and just, this is the portfolio you sent over. If we just like come in and say, oh, hey, that Phil Murray thing that you've got right there, if I just like drop that other one in, it should, boom, there it is. So now you've got, you know, that's the image. Now for your purposes, you're just attempting to like mock this up and get it to where it looks basically like the Squarespace site. Because that's one of the things that I do like about going through this process is it gives you an opportunity. Like this is your target, this is what you're aiming at, and you're able to replicate it over in CodePen, which is what you've been doing. Um, you know, right now, one of the big things that you haven't done yet is you haven't like really sorted this piece out. And that's why I took a little time to work on that. And now if we've got this hamburger menu over here, and if we click the top of it, you'll see that like it drops down, takes over the whole screen. It's a little clunky, to be completely honest with you. You see how it kind of like drops down and then expands. And it's because I was using some code from another project that I worked on um, late last year, and I haven't fully smoothed out the transition. But this is, a lot of these that you'll find online, they're all CSS and JavaScript. But this one is just CSS, and I want to kind of walk you through what I'm doing because there's a couple of things that are going on. One, if we compare the code, like here is your code and here is the code that I'm working with. So basically the same size here. You'll see you've got a container. I've got a container. I've put a class of header on it because I want it to target. And I'm specifically targeting, there's a few things here, right here. One is there's an input type of checkbox. So there's now a checkbox. And I want to just unhide that for a second. So if I come down here, you'll note, like when you look at this, I've gone through and there are notes all through here telling you exactly what the CSS is doing. Okay. But if I come through here and I say display the checkbox, this checkbox is really what's happening. I'm not really, yes, I'm clicking this, but what's really going on is when I click the header, this checkbox is being triggered, and when the checkbox is triggered, as you can see here from this class right here, it then is adding height and padding to the item um, known as menu. So menu is right here. And you'll notice if you go into the HTML, there's a class of menu that's now been added to your unordered list. Your unordered list previously did not have a menu class on it. So I added a checkbox, and that checkbox is basically saying, hey, when I'm clicked, display this menu. And when I'm not clicked, don't display that menu. Now, you might also be wondering, hey, Chris, where did you get that fancy schmancy, where did you get this fancy schmancy hamburger menu animation thing? Well, that's all CSS too. And if you look here, it says hides middle bar, and then this is for the rotation to make the X. This actually is like when checked, go to menu icon, take the nav icon before, the nav icon after. So before and after, if I can explain this really fast, nav icon is the center line. Nav icon before is the top line. Nav icon after is the bottom line. So what happens here is when this is clicked, the middle one disappears and the other two cross. And when it's checked, it does this. When it's unchecked, it goes back. Okay. And this is all wired together so that everything is triggered on the check of that checkbox. Now, if I remove the checkbox, nothing happens. Now, of course, it was happening there for a second because CodePen hadn't caught up. But now if I bring it back, so again, I've just said the checkbox now exists. I click, it's back. Okay. And yes, I know Grammarly has not been activated yet. You chill out, please. But there's a couple other things going on here that I think are pretty interesting. One, we've got this wonky animation thing, like jumps down and keeps going, and that's happening because I have where is it? Right up here, and there's a transition that says, "Hey," yeah, it's right here on the header. So header menu. I want you to transition max height. If I change this from max height to all, this is saying now transition everything at this speed. Now it moves smoothly. And the reason why this was having trouble is when it set the max height, it's saying transition this specific thing. So just focus on max height. So it basically kind of immediately applies the padding that's there, and you'll see that there's some padding right here, 200 pixels to the top and bottom. If we get rid of that, you'll see how it kind of scrunches up. But if we bring it back in, it appears to go full screen. And it's clunky until we go back and say, okay, I want this to be transition all. Nothing's happening right now because nothing's on screen. But when you bring it on screen, now you've got that buttery smooth slide down, slide back. Now there is like the other transition that you had from um, Squarespace was like coming from the bottom, but the way that the question I had is like when we scroll, yeah, it's kind of like that goes away. So it kind of works okay when it's when we're not down here. Um, what I think is a better interaction though is when you scroll, it's there and you can always have it available. So that's something I would slide your way to think about. Um, but regardless, the animation works at all sizes, and the images you can drop them in. I'm going to fork this over so that you can have a copy of all of this. Just know that as you're jumping through the code here, everything is noted. And what I would encourage you to do is spend some time doing stuff like this. Oh, what happens if I get rid of that float right? Oh, it moves over. What happens if I get rid of that padding? Oh, it moves up. One of the things I'll point out really quickly about the padding is if you got rid of the padding, this becomes really hard to target because it's targeting only the individual lines. You really need the padding to give yourself a large enough target so that as you get near it, the cursor is available to you to touch that. So, keep things like that in mind as you're working through. Like this margin top though, you know, moves down. If you don't have that negative margin, it's not in line. So these are just things that I would encourage you like go through, look at it and say, okay, what is really happening here? Okay. All right. Um, let's move on though, because that's Luigi, and we talked nav, we talked image. We're now going to talk about. Hey, let's stay here with Abraham. Abraham's working on second his second case study here, and you know I think you've done a pretty good job of you know identifying the areas. One thing that you could do, because this is a situation where you've got three large areas, you could break this apart, like literally, like I'm just going to say this is the first piece, and then I'll draw the second piece, and maybe I'll have a gap between them, and you can like slice up the design. That might be a helpful way to identify this even more directly than the just highlighting these areas because there's three of them. Okay, so that's the concern I've got right now is that there are three different areas that you've got highlighted. It works okay when you've just got the one area. All right, so it's just something to think about. I also still like I like the idea that it's distilled down to hey, these are just zones, and I do a lot of this in my work. Is I will talk about things in terms of zones, trying to explain. I'll explain it to developers. A lot of times I'll say, hey, so we're going to have these three zones that we're going. Don't worry about what's in the zones yet. Let's just come up with some common terminology so that we can identify, like this is the priority vital zone. All right, or just that one was like candidate details was a project I was working on, and this is like candidate vitals, candidate exploration, and then candidate actions. So vitals, exploration, actions. Um, but you're showing, this is layout A, this is layout B. Here are the sections. Like I think overall this is done pretty well. So I think you're in a spot where you can move forward. You're annotating this well, um, you know, and yeah, I would carry forward. I would carry forward with this. Let's go ahead and poke over here at. Sorry, that was me. Let's poke over here at. We're going to start over here with Kara. Kara, you are working on a few different things. So you've got your client project, and this is an endo dental agency shop, and you've basically got your priority guide here. Here's what's going into the nav. Um, you've kind of, one thing I like about this is you're kind of identifying, okay, here's what the image would be. I do think that is, I think even though priority guides are typically, what is the text, I always say you don't put an image there unless you know what it's going to be. So I think that I think you're going along and kind of saying, hey, this will probably be some sort of, carousel of images behind it. So I'm going to keep the text on top of it. It's going to be gentle quality care, book an appointment. This is okay because I know what it is. It's the logo's here. It's going to say, Wells Endodontics, or something along those lines. So, the only caveat I have is like, okay, how fast do I get to explaining that this is the organization? And I think that's Tampa Bay. I'll just change it for you. Um, so this, we get to the like, okay, so I kind of see the setup, gentle quality care. I get to book an appointment. I'm not completely sold. I'm ready to book an appointment yet because it's just like, unless I'm really comfortable with your service and I know you, I'm not going to just jump in and do that. But it is the number one thing that people want to do when they come to this site. And like they're referred there. Oh, book an appointment. I click here. Um, you've got a little bit about the site, the company here, unsurpassed comfort and care. So like, when I'm thinking about this, what do I, I'm about to get my face work done. As somebody who's had dental work, like this is like near and dear to my heart. Like, what do I care about? Um, I care about like not hurting. Okay. Um, I do want to, as somebody who's had, I was just having this discussion with my dentist yesterday. They were like, "Oh, your teeth are so straight. Did you have braces?" It's like, "No, I had two teeth removed as a kid." And they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like 1980s dentistry. Like, go get it." Um, the the modern technology piece of this is like that rings to me because do I don't want to ever experience what I experienced as a kid. Um, award-winning experienced doctors. Yeah, I want to know who's going to be working on my face. Testimonials. So there's like, it says a live feed of Google testimonials. I'm interested in that because you're going to need an API key to go get that, or you're going to have to manually just like load them in. So whatever it is, like you'll need to sort that out. Um, and then here's what's going in the footer. I think that's pretty strong. I don't, and obviously I see the rest of this. One thing, like I'm not paying attention. Like, don't do that much center type. Like that much center type, like just like it's scaring me. Um, even some areas like this are just like, I don't know about all the center type. Um, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a look at the visual branding. Okay, so here's the logo. It's in its current form. Um, and what's interesting about the W, the way it is right now, it feels like sharp, like dinosaur teeth or vampire teeth, or it feels like a heartbeat monitor, but this is dental. So it's kind of interesting, that piece. I don't want to get too distracted. That's the current brand identity. But I did want to bring it up. So oh, okay. So the guys from Harvard. So Harvard's color scheme is coming into play here. All right. So that's really interesting. Is that going to be I see you're moving to like a warmer red. I wonder if he's going to push back on that. Sometimes people get really into, like, I'm from Harvard and that's not my red. So, and if that's the case, what I would do is I would try to find a way to use the red as accents instead of using it as a main color. Um, but let's set here. Lose the tagline. Um, Not loose the tagline, lose the tagline. Don't rotate the E. Oh, is the E rotated? Oh, it is. Oh, it's E. The E is rotated in both. Interesting. Um, I didn't pick that up on first pass. It's almost like a tooth kind of like, um, like I'm going to remove the tooth. I don't want to remove the tooth. Lighten, brighten the color palette seems too dark and sinister. Okay, that's good. Reds apart from the typical blue-green color palette, it also has negative connotations as blood. I think you're right there. There are ways to soften it. Um, I do like the fact that it's being played more straight. Here's something that I think is interesting and it's important. Um, I in most cases I really like the lowercase thing, but this is a proper I'm guessing that this is well I should go back and like I want to take a look at something real quick. Not that. Um, yeah, okay, so it's Dr. Wells. Okay, Dr. Wells. Dr. Wells is proper um, name, I just have to keep it uppercase at that point. I think lowercase is just off the table because Wells then becomes like it's not somebody's name. I don't know if, and I don't necessarily need the endodonics to be uppercase, but I do think the W like it's somebody's name, and I do think that like that carries some value to it. Um, because it's, you're meeting with Dr. Wells. Oh, you must run the place. Like, I don't get the same thing here. Like that feels like swell has been like jumbled or something. I'm trying to make up other words out of it. Here, it's like, oh, Wells. Okay. Um, so I would really push on uppercase on that. And this is a rare instance when I go, oh yeah, it's got to be uppercase. As far as like the construction, you know, it's one of these funny things where it kind of sorts itself out for you. It's like that D is there. There's not a lot you can do about it unless you're going to stack it directly on top of one another like this, which is fine. Or you can go wide, you can stagger it. The stagger is where you're at now, or you can stack. And I think staggered is about as clean a design as you're going to get. It's very optimized. Um, unless you're going to take um, one of the two down, and I don't. They seem like they're equal weights. They don't seem like that. I can't take endodontics down or bring wells up. So I think I would play it like you've got it. But I know that's still close to the current one. But you get rid of the crazy W and you get rid of the twisted E's, and I think it's improved. New typefaces, Source Sans. Yeah, Source Sans is fine. We've talked about this quite a bit, and I know Frank was asking about typography earlier. You know, typography can you can get really complicated with it, or you can simplify down your options. That does not mean well, your selection of typography does not guarantee that it will be successful. Your application of the typography is what really decides that. But the good news here is you have enough different weights in both regular and sans serif to do some work to apply some meaning to your typographical design. So I bless that. I do wonder, like, if you had longer passages of type, like if you had a blog post or something like that, would you want a Merriweather or a Roboto Sans or Roboto there was what was it? Sorry. Roboto slab was the one I was thinking about. But some sort of slab or like again like a Merriweather to go with this, so that you could have that serif presentation for longer passages of text. Don't know. It's something to think about. but I like it, and I know again you're just getting started with this, so we'll see where it goes. And then as far as your wireframe goes, we're taking a look at this, and I'm just going to stay here on mobile for a second. So this is book an appointment. Welcome to Wells. I would be careful about the size here. 12 is pretty small. I think if you're 18, or if you're 16 or 18 on desktop, I think you can go to 14 on mobile for this content. I don't think you can go really below that. Um, let's see, what do you got here? 18. So yeah, you're 18 on these. Um, yeah, 18, 14, 20, 16, something along those lines, I think would be the combination. As far as the buttons go, the buttons you can probably get away with something like 12, because it's not just the button, it's also the space around the button. That touch zone's not getting too small. Um, and it's got space around, it's the space around, it's the button itself, and it's the space around the button, and it's pretty easy to read, but it's this content that I'm mostly concerned with. Same thing really all the way down. And then here, that's 10. That's just like off the board. I wouldn't do that. I think the minimum size I would go with on that would be 12. And then, if that's 12, then this is 14. And if that's 14, then this is 20. Or I mean, it could probably stay 18, but like just for a thought experiment here, let's just adjust this. So that's 14. That's 12. And it's immediately better. It's just you can read it. I mean, you know, pretty straightforward, in my opinion. If I put 8 between them, you know, again going back to the rule of eights for spacing, you know, that that to me, I'm going to copy it. Let's undo it, bring it back to where it was. It's night and day. I don't think there's really any question. It's got to be this over here. Um, let's come over here though, and let's see how you're doing. So that's 24. That's 36. Here we might actually be too big. So it's like, that's 24 as well. Maybe it's a lot of text. I do realize you're kind of struggling with, like, okay, how do I manage this? Because I want to get them to sign up, but I got to kind of welcome them to what's going on. It may just be you've got to do something like where you've got this welcome to Wells endononics, um, and then it's like, here you are part of the family or something. Like, I know that's like it's like an Olive Garden tag. Chris, come on, it's garbage. But you get the idea. It's like, how do I introduce like where you're at and then come back to it? I'll undo that for now though, because the Olive Garden thing, I just like can't. Oh, it's so garbage, gross. Um, Here again, I think this is probably a bit large. And I'm not sure this is a 1-2. It could be a 1-2, like present it as two features of the same thing. This feels very much like it's a photo of the doctors, and here, award-winning experience. Like, I see the back-to-back shoulder thing. Um, this is okay. Well, that's 24, and that's 18. That's very interesting. I, you know, I think the sizing on this may be actually pretty close to right. Um, but I'm not sure everything is at 24. I think maybe on the lower end here you're too big, and on the lower end here you're too small. So something that brings them a little closer together. But I do think that you have some discussions now that can be had to say, I need artwork for this. I need photo for that. Are these icons? Um, but again, I look at this based on where it was, and it's like, yeah, this is fine. This will work fine. Um, so I bless it. I do think there's some discussion here on branding, but I know that's ongoing. And then as far as like when it comes down to this we've kind of already discussed, and I think it sets up. I wonder about that first transition. Do we have enough to help identify? And then I would like just remember, keep in the back of your head, I need to stay away from all that centered. And then finally, do I need a serif to pair with that source sans? Okay, let's come in here and take a look at Heather's. So Heather, we'd worked yesterday on this emphasis right, kind of set that up to kind of get you started. You've got emphasis top, and what's interesting here is spacing. Okay, and I'm going to show you something real fast. If we take this and we say, hey, I'm going to present this. I'm just going to hit the play button over here. That's going to give us an opportunity to look at this on screen. I'm going to come over here and hide the options so we can hide that toolbar footer. And as you can see, like everything is just crammed together. Okay. Yes, the emphasis is up here, but we've got to have some space. And one of the bigger problems that I see right now is like emphasis is here, but the emphasis is here, but like the tell me more, like I'm trying to get them to interact with us, and we've kind of just like crammed that in over in the corner. So so what I would encourage you to do, and I'm gonna do the ye old trick where I duplicate it and we just work on this a little bit down here, is what you need to do is come back and think about space, okay? And again, don't fear that. Like put that information like right on the break, all right? And when we look at this, well, I guess I probably have to save it and then it'll update. Oh, well, no, it's not going to do that because I have it there. Okay. So here we are, right? And it's down there. And that's fine. That's fine. And the reason that you might be wondering, why is it so far down there? Well, it's because I've got this toolbar still up here. But regardless of all that, when we look at this, if I'm using the rule of eight and I say, hey, you know what? I don't want my Y position to be 100. I want it to be 148. Okay, so that's saying I'm 48 off the top. And then I've got this image. And you've got this box. You put this box here. I get it. I get it. This is where you just have to come in and crop. Okay, so now we've cropped, freedom to work from anywhere. Now here's a question. Do I need it to be all the way across? Could I just do this tell me more thing down here? Could it just be that? Is that emphasis top? Maybe. I mean, the emphasis is all up here. It's also, frankly, emphasis left. I mean, like there's nothing else over here. So this also counts as emphasis left. Although I do think that, like one of your other solutions where you have this kind of coming over, this is much more emphasis left to me. Um, Another thing we could do is just like bring her bring her up, and instead of that, let's do this. And again, I'm just staying on the grid, freedom to work from anywhere. And now let's bring this down. And does this have to go all the way to the top? Well, no, not really. I mean, we could just do that and maybe bring this down and push this over as well. Bring this up. Maybe we can let that hold out, Now that still works as emphasis top, and now we still got room to bring these in if you wanted to. We could also just angle that to the bottom of the photo, and now this still counts as emphasis top, right? So and let's look at this. How would this read across? Okay, so if this is a Z pattern, start here, I read across, I come down, okay, I land there, I come over, I land here, and I move back across, right? That's a Z. If I use it as an F, okay, so I scan over, and I come back, and I go down, I scan over, and I come back, and I go down, and scan over. It works there too. If I want to move in a diagonal pattern, I go from company name, and I come down here, and I see the big image, and I come back over, and, I probably wouldn't come back over directly to here because the type size is just different. So as far as that goes, I probably come here, see the image, come back over. One thing I do like is I do like the fact that she could be looking directly at the type. So that's something to think about. But the big thing, the absolute crucial bit here is space. I need you thinking about, okay, do I have enough space in here? Because if we look at these two right now, I mean, this should be night and day. It's the same content, okay? But I need you thinking about, okay, do I have enough space to really let this breathe? And if I don't, what could I do? Keep in mind, though, at the same time, what I've really done is I've just created a zone. We were talking about zones earlier. I just created a zone and said, okay, this is a unit, and this is a unit. And these things are all organized, and these things are all organized. This is the concept of Gestalt. Okay? We're grouping things together with our eyes. This is grouped together. That's grouped together. Up here, kind of, sort of, but the space is so tight that it's hard. It's hard to ever get away from this. We don't really have a break on the page at all until we get down here. So I see these as being similar because the size, repetition, and whatnot, and the spacing and all that. But up here, it's just kind of all just kind of mashed together. Okay. But is it emphasis top? Kinda. I mean, the largest type on the page is at the top, and the photo is kind of looking up at the top, but it's not great. Okay. This is emphasis left. All right. We've kind of already talked about this. Like emphasis left. Let's duplicate this one. And you kind of, I really think that you kind of get there with this one. Okay. Um, I think you could bring the headline in just to like put some more, put that space out there. But this could just as easily be flipped. I'm gonna delete this really fast. I'm just gonna copy this. This could just as easily be this. And again, we come back to, okay, how what do I do with the space? Well, I mean, this space is just there. What I'm looking at is, what do I do with her? And, can I crop this in such a way that it puts more emphasis on that dynamic? This is her kind of looking up and over, working from anywhere. For that matter, I could also bring her up and do more with it. What's fun is there's actually some other stuff I could do with it, but overall, this allows us to still do emphasis left. Like largest headline here, photo down below. They're kind of interacting. It's kind of the flip of this, but the photo is so much larger. Okay, and it's the emphasis of the photo, the focus of the photo. Do you have to have her so large? No, but I think that there are things that I want to crop out, like the exit sign there. I don't want to see that. Um, I think the door, you want to crop it in such a way that, like, her elbow's not completely showing, although I really would like to see the phone, but whatever. Um, like, there are ways to crop this so that you don't have so many distracting things. That's something to think about as you move forward. But as far as this goes, there's just not enough space up here to do this design. Now, let's back that up. Okay, what else could we do here? Because I don't want to give up on that design. I see where you're trying to go, and this is where I come in. I go, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to measure it in, and I'm going to kind of do the whole punk rocky thing where I just say, you know what? Background of this, boys and girls, is white, and I'm going to just hide the grid for a second. Background of this is white. I'm just going to expand that. Freedom to work from anywhere. Now this gets harder when you get responsive, okay? So like when this begins to move around, like you've got to really be on top of your game as far as designing for, oh, I've got this text that's in a box, it's over an image, and you know, unless you're handling it, you'll have people cursing you like, gosh, why is this damn designer doing this to us all the time, asking for these silly little overlays and things like that, and it's fine. Don't worry about it. But I'm just saying, like, this is why you want to learn how to code so that you can do this on your own. Um, anyway, so we come in here and we say, oh yeah, I need this button here, and this button needs to have a fill, and the fill can be white. And now you've got this design essentially doing the same thing, but you need space around it. Okay, you can't just like slam it up into the corner. Now, one thing you could do, and again, this has all got to come down, like down. Forget that. One thing you could do is you could, and I did this a billion times. You could just like have it etch off to the side of the image, and then it's a little more doable, to be honest with you. The trouble here becomes the button. Like the buttons, you're not quite sure what to do with the button, and this wants to be down, but now it's going over the top of her head, and you basically end up in a situation where this has got to become a three line. This has got to become a three line as well. That's going down. This is coming over. This is coming down because you got to have a home of sorts for this button, and now she's got to crop up to work in that kind of weird zone that you've left her. And I mean, let's be honest, that's what's happened here is we've kind of said, okay, image, you have to get out of the way of our beautiful design, and it's okay. I don't think it's any better than this. I don't think it's any better than this or this, right? I think that there are times when you have to like, I just have to put this type on the photo. There are other times where I don't. I can just like crop it and it'll be fine. Or I can just like crop it and put all the space off the side. And I think this is one of those times where you don't have to put the type on the photo. Just me. Um, but as far as the rest of this goes, like, hey, what am I doing with the content off to the side? Um, I think that organizing that as a group allows it to become secondary, and you want the eye to always group these things together, which is why when I come in here and I'm using that space and I'm pairing this with the photo next to it. I'm not letting that kind of leak off and feel like it belongs to something else. Okay. And that really ultimately, you got I want to make it big and here's where I'm going to put it. You got that part. Now I want to think about how do I use space around this to make this feel like a unit, to make this feel like a unit. Kind of beginning to get there. And that's, you know, people ask this question all the time. And I'm going to like stop sharing my screen for a second. People ask this question all the time. I just want to make sure. Boop. Yep. Okay. They'll ask like, Chris, why are there like three? Why do I have to do 3 rounds of each of these exercises? Like, why 3? And it's because what I found is that some people will get it on the first try. Some people might get it on the second try, but almost everybody gets it on the third try. It's like that third time through, that's when you begin to like things begin to snap. They're like, oh wait, I could also do this. And that's why I follow the rule of threes pretty much on all the exercises. Now, some exercises, like with the UX exercises, it's harder to do the rule of three because I'm not going to have you go through and like create three cohorts, or I'm not going to have you do your portfolio three different times. But what I do think is interesting is like, having you do research on three different projects. Your research on the third project is generally going to be better than your research on the first project from a manner of how you're executing the research. Now, the project itself doesn't matter as much as your growth having done those methods three times over. So that's something to think about. You know, if you're trying, I've caught people saying, "Oh, I got to get a job and I need to do one project and I just got," that's great. I think you're going to be way better after three projects. And that's why I don't try to make this a, hey, you'll get a job in 90 days. Like that's, there are a lot of boot camps out there that they'll tell you. And here's something I've noticed as of late. There's a lot of career boot camps where they're like, yeah, we're not really going to teach you the skills. We're just going to like teach you how to interview. You can go get the skills somewhere else because that's the hard part. I don't want to teach you the skills part. Have somebody else like worry about that. I want to teach you the really kind of soft skill, easy part because frankly, that whole design thing is pretty hard. That coding thing is pretty hard. So be on the lookout for these little like new wave of places that are just like, oh, well, we're career camps. Screw that, man. No, like you can talk to your peers. You can come talk to me. Jump into the New Pragmatic Discord channel. Like there are tons of places for you to get free career resources. Don't go hand 9% of your first year's check off to some other group because they want to coach up your career um, when what you really need to learn is the skills. Now, if you've learned the skills, if you've learned the skills and you're transitioning into the workforce from say military, I totally get that. Like there are areas where I see that expertise needed, but design, I'm going to teach you how to go through. I'm going to teach you how to like put together your design resume. Come on, I can help you with that. Um, you know, we can do that in these career roundtables and whatnot. But that said, I'm going to wrap it up here because this battery is about to die. And hopefully, next time I chat with you fine folks, it will be on ye old grand computer, and hopefully, it's not really busted. So, without further ado, I'm Chris Courtney, New Pragmatic. I'll see the rest of you tomorrow. Take care.